Repeat until success is more than a phrase. It's a mindset, a commitment, a way of living that separates those who achieve greatness from those who stop halfway. Most people try something once or twice, and when it doesn't work immediately, they assume it isn't meant for them. They let discouragement, fear, or frustration convince them to quit. But the truth is simple. Success doesn't reward the first attempt. It rewards the final one, the one you reach after refusing to give up. Repeating isn't a sign of weakness. It's a sign of strength. It means you're willing to learn, willing to improve, willing to push through the obstacles that stop others. Every repetition sharpens your skills. Every repetition builds your discipline. Every repetition strengthens your belief. You don't become better by thinking about success. You become better by doing the work over and over again until it becomes part of who you are. The journey to success is rarely clean or comfortable. It's messy, it's unpredictable, it's filled with setbacks, disappointments, and moments where you question everything you're working for. But repetition transforms those moments. It turns setbacks into experience. It turns mistakes into lessons. It turns challenges into fuel. When you repeat, you grow. And the more you grow, the closer you get to the breakthrough you've been fighting for. There will be times when you feel tired, when progress seems invisible, when the results you expected don't show up. That's where most people quit. But that's exactly where repetition becomes your greatest weapon. When you push forward even when motivation disappears, you build something far more powerful than inspiration. You build resilience. You train your mind to stay committed, not just excited. You train your body to show up, not just when it's easy, but especially when it's hard. Repeating until success doesn't mean doing the same thing blindly. It means adjusting, refining, evolving, and showing up again with more wisdom than before. It means reviewing what didn't work and using that insight to improve your next attempt. It means being flexible in your strategy, but unshakable in your commitment. Every attempt teaches you something new. Every attempt makes you better equipped for the next one. And eventually the repetition becomes mastery. The people who succeed aren't the ones who never fail. They're the ones who refuse to stop after failing. They understand that failure isn't a wall, it's a doorway. And every time you walk through it, you step closer to the life you imagine for yourself. Repetition is the bridge between who you are now and who you're becoming. With every repeated action, you rebuild your identity. You stop seeing yourself as someone who tries and start seeing yourself as someone who perseveres, someone who adapts, someone who wins. When you repeat something long enough, something powerful happens. You become undeniable. You become the person who doesn't give up, the person who keeps improving, the person who becomes so skilled, so prepared, so experienced that success has no choice but to arrive. And when it does, it won't feel like luck. It'll feel like the natural result of everything you repeated in silence, in struggle, and in determination. Success isn't an event. It's a collection of repeated actions, repeated decisions, and repeated commitments. It's built in the moments where you say, I will try again. It's built in the days when you don't feel like it, but you show up anyway. It's built in the hours of practice, the late nights, the early mornings, and the quiet effort that no one sees. Repeat until success is a promise you make to yourself, a promise that you won't quit, that you won't settle, that you won't stop halfway, that no setback is big enough to end your journey, that no failure is final unless you choose to stop. When you embrace this mindset, you become unstoppable, not because everything is easy, but because nothing can break your commitment. Keep going, keep refining, keep pushing, keep repeating. Your breakthrough is already on the way. It just needs you to continue long enough to reach it. Success is waiting for the version of you that refuses to quit. Repeat until you meet that version. Then repeat again until everything you dream of becomes real. Repetition builds mastery because every time you repeat an action, you strengthen the pathway in your mind, your body, and your identity. Mastery isn't created in a moment of inspiration. It's created through steady, consistent practice. When you repeat something, you're not just doing it again, you're reinforcing the skill, deepening your understanding, sharpening your execution, and training your mind to perform with clarity and confidence. You're building a level of competence that can only come from experience, real, hands-on, committed experience. Repetition turns a beginner into an expert, uncertainty into instinct, and effort into excellence. Most people see repetition as boring or tiring because they only look at the surface. They see the same task being done over and over and think it's just mechanical. But what they don't see is what repetition is creating beneath the surface. Every repetition is a stroke of improvement. Every repetition makes your movements smoother, your decisions faster, and your confidence stronger. What once felt difficult or complicated begins to feel natural. Your body remembers. Your mind adapts. Your instincts sharpen. That's what mastery truly is. The point where what used to be hard becomes effortless. Repetition also builds mastery by stripping away hesitation. When you're new at something, your mind second-guesses every move. You hesitate, you doubt, you overthink. But repetition removes the need to think about each step. It replaces doubt with familiarity. Once something is familiar, you move with certainty. You respond faster, react smarter, and operate with a sense of calm confidence because you've been there before. The more you repeat, the less space doubt has to grow. Every expert in any field became an expert because they repeated the basics until those basics became part of who they were. That's how mastery works, not through talent alone, but through deliberate repetition. Talent may give you a head start, but repetition is what takes you across the finish line. Talent can open the door, but repetition is what keeps you inside the room. And the more you repeat, the more you evolve. You don't just improve, you transform. Repetition also teaches you the subtle details that you can't learn any other way. The first time you attempt something, you're just trying to understand the overall process. But with repetition, you begin to notice the small adjustments that make a huge difference. You start learning the rhythm, the timing, the strategy, the nuances that separate average results from extraordinary ones. Mastery is all about those details, and repetition is how you discover them. Another powerful aspect of repetition is how it strengthens your mental resilience. When you do something repeatedly, especially when it's challenging, you build a mindset that doesn't run from effort. You train yourself to stay engaged even when things get difficult or monotonous. You develop patience, consistency, and discipline, all essential ingredients of mastery. The world is filled with people who start strong and fade quickly because they expect results without repetition. But mastery belongs to the person who keeps showing up, keeps refining, keeps practicing long after others have given up. Repetition is also the key to breaking past your plateaus. In every journey, there comes a point where progress slows down. You feel stuck. You feel like nothing is changing. Most people quit here because they assume the progress has stopped completely. But what they don't realize is that repetition during plateaus is what sets up the breakthrough. When you continue to practice through the slow phases, you build strength beneath the surface. You build endurance. You build deeper skill. And eventually, that invisible development explodes into visible results. Plateaus aren't the end, they're preparation. And repetition is what carries you through. Repetition also builds mastery because it creates momentum. When you practice consistently, you build a psychological rhythm. You begin to expect progress. You begin to feel more invested. You begin to enjoy the process because you can see yourself improving even if the improvements are small. That momentum fuels your motivation. It makes you more willing to keep going. And when you keep going, mastery becomes inevitable. There's also a powerful identity shift that repetition creates. Every time you repeat an action, you reinforce the belief that you are someone who shows up, someone who practices, someone who grows. Eventually, the repetition becomes part of your identity. You stop saying, "I'm trying to get better," and start saying, "This is who I am." Mastery isn't just what you do, it becomes who you are. And once something becomes part of your identity, maintaining it becomes natural. Repetition also removes fear. When you start something new, fear often speaks loudly. Fear of failing, fear of embarrassment, fear of not being good enough. But with each repetition, fear loses power. Skill replaces fear, familiarity replaces discomfort, confidence replaces insecurity. When you've done something 100 times, fear has nothing to hold on to. You've proven to yourself that you can handle it. The beauty of repetition is that it works in every area of life, whether you're building a skill, improving your mindset, strengthening your body, or chasing a dream. Repetition is the force that turns effort into excellence. It works slowly at first, almost invisibly. But over time, the results become undeniable. You begin to see what you're capable of. You begin to experience the rewards of your persistence. And eventually, others begin to notice too, not because of one big action, but because of thousands of small ones repeated with purpose. Mastery is built by those who don't give up after the first try, the 5th try, or the 10th try. It's built by those who understand that repetition is the gateway to greatness. If you're willing to repeat, you're capable of mastering anything. You just have to commit, you just have to show up, and you just have to keep going again and again until the skill is yours, until the mindset is yours, until the goal is yours. Repetition builds mastery every single time. Success rewards persistence because success is not built on the first try, the lucky break, or the moment of inspiration. It's built on the moments when you choose to keep going, especially when nothing seems to be working. Persistence is the quiet force that turns average effort into extraordinary achievement. It's the voice inside you that refuses to let setbacks, delays, or disappointments become the end of the story. When you persist, you declare that your goal matters enough to fight for, long enough for the world to notice. Success is not something you stumble upon, it's something you earn by refusing to walk away before the breakthrough comes. Most people quit not because they're incapable, but because they grow tired before the results show. Persistence is the ability to endure that invisible phase, the phase where you're watering the seed but nothing has sprouted yet. The work feels heavy, progress is slow, and doubts try to convince you that maybe it's not meant for you. But that's exactly the point where success starts paying attention. That's where the separation happens between those who dream and those who achieve. Success rewards the ones who outlast the noise, outlast the doubt, outlast the temptation to settle. There are countless people with talent, intelligence, and potential, but only a few have the endurance to keep moving when progress is hard to see. And it's that endurance that success gravitates toward. Persistence sharpens your character. It molds you into someone who can handle the very thing you're pursuing. Every challenge becomes a form of training. Every delay strengthens your patience. Every setback expands your ability to adapt. You become stronger, more resourceful, more resilient. Persistence doesn't just move you closer to the goal, it prepares you to hold the goal once you get there. Many people want success but aren't mentally or emotionally equipped to maintain it. Persistence builds that internal foundation. It teaches you discipline. It teaches you how to solve problems. It teaches you how to push through discomfort. And without those qualities, even if success arrives, it won't stay. There is a universal truth that almost every person who has achieved something great understands. Persistence is the price and success is the reward. You don't get one without the other. You can't wish your way into excellence. You can't half commit and expect full results. Success pays those who show up over and over again, long after the excitement fades. It's easy to be motivated on day one. Anyone can be enthusiastic at the beginning. But persistence shows up on the days when your energy is low, when the obstacles are high, when the support isn't there, when the results aren't visible, and when giving up seems easier than continuing. Success sees that version of you, the version that keeps going not because it's easy, but because the goal matters deeply. And that's when it begins to open doors. Persistence is also what allows you to discover the strategies, habits, and approaches that actually work. When you continue trying, you learn, you refine, you adjust. Persistence grants you the chance to gather the information needed to improve. Each effort becomes a lesson, each mistake becomes feedback, and each attempt becomes another step forward. That accumulation of learning is what eventually leads to a breakthrough. Success rarely comes from a single dramatic moment. It comes from countless small improvements that compound over time. And those improvements only happen when you stay in the game long enough to uncover what works. Success also rewards persistence because persistence proves desire. If you're willing to keep going, it shows that the goal isn't just a wish, it's a commitment. Life tests people to see how badly they want something. Those tests come in the form of setbacks, criticism, failures, delays, and unexpected challenges. But persistence signals that the goal is non-negotiable. It shows that you're willing to pay the price. And when you show that, the reward becomes inevitable. The person who keeps going, even slowly, will always surpass the person who moves fast but quits early. Persistence builds an unstoppable mindset. When you develop the habit of not quitting, you become a force that obstacles can't intimidate. You stop fearing failure because you know you'll rise again. You stop fearing challenges because you've overcome enough of them to trust your own strength. You stop doubting your path because persistence has shown you that every step, even the difficult ones, moves you forward. Success begins to feel less like a distant dream and more like a logical outcome because persistence turns effort into inevitability. The truth is simple. Success doesn't choose the smartest, the fastest, or the luckiest. It chooses the most persistent. It chooses the one who wakes up after every fall, the one who shows up one more time, the one who decides that quitting is not an option. If you continue moving forward, step by step, day by day, attempt by attempt, success will eventually have no choice but to meet you. It rewards those who refuse to be defeated, those who rise again and again until the mountain they're climbing is no longer in front of them, but beneath them. Persistence is the path. Success is the destination, and if you keep going long enough, you will get there. Progress grows through adjustment because growth is not a straight line, and improvement is not something that happens automatically just because time passes. Real progress requires evolution, an ongoing willingness to change your approach, refine your strategy, and adapt to what reality is teaching you. Every goal you chase has its own challenges. and those challenges reveal the changes you need to make in order to move forward. When you adjust, you unlock momentum. When you refuse to adjust, you stall. Progress belongs to the flexible, not the stubborn. It belongs to the person who pays attention, evaluates what's working, discards what's not, and keeps shaping their actions to align with the result they want. Adjustment is the bridge between effort and improvement. You can work hard, but if you're working in the wrong direction or using an ineffective method, you can exhaust yourself without getting closer to your goal. Adjustment ensures that your effort becomes smarter over time. It allows you to turn mistakes into lessons instead of burdens. Every misstep provides information. Every setback provides clarity. Every challenge reveals a flaw in the strategy that can be corrected. When you embrace adjustment, you no longer fear mistakes because you understand they are part of the learning process. You begin to see mistakes as data, and data is power. Progress grows through adjustment because every stage of growth requires a different version of you. What worked at the beginning might not work later. What helped you start might not help you finish. Growth demands upgrades. Upgrades in habits, mindset, discipline, and strategy. You cannot cling to old patterns and expect new results. Adjustment becomes the process of shedding what no longer serves you and replacing it with what will move you forward. It is a continuous process of refinement, shaping yourself into someone capable of reaching the next level. Without adjustment, you stay stuck at the same level, repeating the same patterns, hoping for different outcomes. Adjustment also teaches humility, and humility is essential for progress. It takes humility to admit that something you're doing isn't working. It takes humility to accept feedback, whether it comes from results, from other people, or from your own intuition. It takes humility to change course, to admit that you need a better approach, or to recognize that your plan needs refinement. But that humility becomes one of your greatest strengths, because arrogant people cling to broken strategies while humble people grow. When you're willing to adjust, you reveal that your goal matters more than your ego, and that's when real breakthroughs begin. When you choose adjustment, you choose growth over comfort. Comfort keeps you using the same routine, even when it's no longer serving you. Comfort convinces you that consistency alone is enough, even if the consistency isn't effective. Adjustment forces you to step into discomfort, trying new approaches, learning new skills, experimenting with unfamiliar ideas, and embracing the uncertainty that comes with change. But within that discomfort lies expansion. Every adjustment pushes you past your old limitations and into a new zone of capability. You become more capable not because you stayed the same, but because you were willing to change. Progress grows through adjustment because every challenge is a signal, and every signal is telling you something. Challenges don't show up to stop you. They show up to redirect you when something isn't working. That's not a sign to quit. It's a sign to adjust. If you hit a wall, maybe you need to climb over it. If you feel stuck, maybe you need a new strategy. If you're not seeing results, maybe you need to refine your technique. Adjustment turns frustration into opportunity. Instead of feeling defeated, you become curious. Instead of quitting, you begin exploring. And as you explore, you find better ways forward, ways that would have remained hidden if you stayed rigid. Adjustment also builds resilience. When you learn to adapt, you become unstoppable because obstacles lose their ability to shut you down. Instead of seeing problems as dead ends, you see them as puzzles. You become someone who can handle unexpected changes, sudden setbacks, or shifting circumstances. You become someone who doesn't collapse under pressure, but instead responds strategically. Resilience isn't just the ability to endure, it's the ability to pivot. The more you adjust, the more confidence you build in your ability to find solutions, no matter the situation. Even nature teaches this principle. Survival and growth belong to the ones who adapt. Progress is no different. The person who adjusts will always surpass the person who refuses to change. The person who listens to feedback will always surpass the one who ignores it. The one who continuously refines their approach will always move further than the one who repeatedly makes the same mistakes and calls it persistence. Adjustment doesn't replace effort, it multiplies it. It makes each step smarter, each action more aligned, each decision more precise. In the end, progress grows through adjustment because adjustment turns effort into evolution. It transforms setbacks into stepping stones and mistakes into mastery. It keeps you moving forward when others get stuck. It allows you to stay aligned with your goal even as life throws unexpected challenges your way. Progress is not about never changing. Progress is about changing wisely and intentionally. When you embrace adjustment, you unlock a path where growth becomes inevitable. Every time you refine, you rise. Every time you adapt, you advance. And every adjustment you make brings you closer to the success that's waiting for you. Consistency creates resilience because every time you show up, especially on the days when it would be easier not to, You strengthen the mental, emotional, and physical muscles that allow you to keep going. Resilience isn't something you're born with, it's something you build through repeated action. Each consistent step, no matter how small, reinforces your ability to handle pressure, adapt to challenges, and stay committed when obstacles arise. Consistency isn't just about doing the work, it's about developing the inner toughness that grows from proving to yourself that you can follow through, again and again, even when circumstances aren't ideal. When you're consistent, you teach yourself discipline. You train your mind to rely on action rather than emotion. Feelings fluctuate. Motivation rises and falls, excitement fades, energy shifts, but consistency anchors you. It creates stability. It keeps you grounded in your purpose even when your mood tries to pull you off track. Over time, this discipline becomes a form of strength. You begin to trust yourself deeply because you know you can count on your own actions. That trust becomes resilience. It becomes the foundation that supports you when you hit difficult periods in your journey. Consistency also exposes you to challenges regularly, and these challenges become training sessions for resilience. When you show up consistently, you encounter setbacks, mistakes, fatigue, and frustration on a frequent basis. But instead of being overwhelmed by them, you learn how to work through them. You learn how to keep moving even when things aren't perfect. You learn how to adjust your effort instead of abandoning your path. Each time you push through a challenge, you grow stronger. Each time you overcome resistance, you build endurance. Each time you refuse to quit, you develop the toughness needed to face even bigger challenges in the future. One of the most powerful aspects of consistency is that it stretches your comfort zone bit by bit. Resilience is rarely developed in one dramatic moment. It's developed gradually through repeated exposure to difficulty. When you consistently take action, you force yourself to grow. You try new things, face temporary discomfort, and deal with unexpected setbacks. But with each experience, you become more capable. What once intimidated you becomes manageable. What once felt overwhelming becomes routine. Consistency transforms challenges into opportunities for expansion, and that expansion is what builds resilience. Consistency also creates resilience because it builds momentum, and momentum makes the journey easier. When you take consistent steps, you keep yourself in forward motion. Even when progress feels slow, you're still moving. That movement keeps you from getting stuck in discouragement. It prevents stagnation. It gives you proof that you're improving over time. When you can look back and see everything you've done, you feel stronger, more confident, and more determined to keep going. That sense of progress fuels resilience because it reminds you that effort pays off. Even if the results aren't immediate, resilience is not the absence of struggle. It's the ability to rise through struggle. And consistency trains that ability. Think about every time you didn't feel like showing up, but you still did. Think about every day you pushed through doubt, stress, or fear. Think about every time you chose to act when quitting would have been easier. Those moments are the building blocks of your resilience. Those moments are proof that you have the strength to keep going. Consistency gives you those moments more often, and the more you accumulate, the stronger your resilience becomes. Consistency also eliminates excuses. When you build a habit of showing up no matter what, your mind stops looking for reasons to avoid the work. You create a new identity, one where follow-through is normal. And once you see yourself as someone who follows through, resilience becomes natural. Challenges no longer feel like threats. They feel like tests you are fully capable of overcoming. You stop doubting whether you can handle things because your consistent actions have already proven that you can. Over time, consistency shapes you into a resilient person almost without you realizing it. The little choices add up. The repeated actions compound. The steady effort transforms you. You become someone who doesn't break under pressure, who doesn't crumble at the first sign of difficulty, who doesn't give up when the journey gets tough. Instead, you become someone who endures, someone who adapts, someone who keeps moving forward because that's what you've trained yourself to do. The true power of consistency is that it creates a strength within you that cannot be easily shaken, an inner resilience that supports you through every challenge, every setback, and every uncertain moment. And when you have that resilience, nothing can stop you from reaching your goals. Consistency doesn't just build habits, it builds warriors, it builds mindset, it builds perseverance. It builds the kind of strength that makes success inevitable.